Welcome, everybody. I'm Patrick Wood. I'm sitting in for Pastor Tom Hughes. He's winging his way to Israel today. That's an amazing thing. We wish we could be with him. However, we need to pray for his safety for sure, because things are getting really dicey over there, as you know, and they're all getting dicey here as well. And we're going to talk about the anniversary of 10/7. And with the rise of anti-Semitism in America today, this is absolutely stunning. I did a search on 3 different search engines this morning to see what would turn up vis-a-vis anti-Semitism currently. And I found headlines all over the world. Tons of them. You can do the same search yourself. I don't care who you pick at this. Google will do it as well, but go Bing or anybody else, Yandex.com, et cetera. You'll find all these stories talking about anti-Semitism. And so we need to probably unpack this a little bit, because it really is a bigger story than we think. For instance, there's one headline that we have from Israel National News that says tens of thousands protest against Israel in Rabat, Morocco. Now, there's a backstory on that, but I want to point out the people in the Mideast, you would expect them to be protesting against Israel. They would be wanting to wipe Israel out for sure. So we can always count on them, that element, to be anti-Israel, anti-Jewish as well, and anti-Semitic. That's no surprise, I don't think, and you're not going to win those people over necessarily, but with anything we will say about it here. But this story's emanated first from ADL here in America, that there have been more than 10,000 anti-Semitic incidences recorded in the U.S. since October 7, the highest yearly total on record. That's huge. But it's not just that. We see other headlines. For instance, in Minnesota and New York, threats have been coming against synagogues. One rabbi was robbed in his home at gunpoint, and we see this. I'm looking for the punchline on this here. These threats, the article says, are horrific and unacceptable. Targeting houses of worship on one of the holiest days of the Jewish calendar is particularly craven. There you go. So we see other stories like in Breitbart, headline, anti-Semitic incidences in the U.S. increased by 200% in the year since October 7th. It just goes on. Okay, here's another one. I like this one in particular from the New York Post. 61% of American Jews encountered anti-Semitism after October 7th, 2023. Now, this is more telling, I think, than basically just the overall increase. This puts specifics on it. When you say that 61% of American Jews, that's a lot. A majority have encountered anti-Semitism themselves personally. Maybe not every day, not every week, but somewhere along the way, they're all reporting that this has been the case. So we assess this now. What's going on with the world right now? That the world is getting just so insane with anti-Semitism. we know we can throw all of the people out mostly from the Mideast. We know their hatred for Israel existed for thousands of years, perhaps. We're talking about how propaganda is influencing the West at this point, with all the anti-Semitism we see on campuses, for instance, college students and even the professors around the country. We see people even in the street as well. It's interesting. I picture this like a pot of popcorn. When you pop popcorn, the heat goes up, and eventually the first kernel pops, and then you have the beginning of it. Along the way, as the heat gets hotter, more kernels popped. And at the end, all of them basically are popped, except the ones at the bottom of the pan. The kernels will not pop under any circumstances. But along the way, we see the heat applied, and the pop goes up. And this is the way I see anti-Semitism at this point in this country. You have the people that on the left, especially, you'd see all these people demonstrating against Israel and supporting Palestine, et cetera, and other countries in the Middle East. But in the church itself, you have this huge wave of anti-Semitism. It's been low-key at this point, but it's percolating, and the heat is being administered, and now those kernels are starting to pop as well. Let me give you an example. When you talk about replacement theology, for instance, that brings lots of problems to the Christian who wants to believe the Bible, for sure, that Israel is not the chosen one, or they've broken their covenant, whatever, with God, and the church has replaced Israel to receive all of God's promises, and that means that Israel is out, period. Well, this is a majority of Christian churches, I have to say, across our country today. They've adopted this whole thing about replacement theology. This is basically anti-Semitism. And these people are not, by and large, they don't want to speak up because they don't want to get crosswise with, being called anti-Semitic for sure, or being criticized. However, as the heat gets applied, these people are now also coming out of the woodwork to criticize Israel. I see this also in the alternative media realm. Most of these people may not be Christians, but nevertheless, I see where formerly you would see this on the left-wing side of the aisle, but now you see the libertarian, the conservative movement, whatever. We see these people are also buying into propaganda on this anti-Semitism. What's going on? Well, I want to just talk for a minute about the value of propaganda, how it's used, how it's perpetrated across the world. And apparently anybody can be subject to propaganda. If you don't recognize it when it's coming at you, you could be subject to all kinds of things that you would not otherwise believe. Anti-Semitism, however, this is a virus of the mind. It seems like over the years, I've seen people have been infected with this thing, where they just go irrational immediately, and they say, "Well, it's all the Jews did it all." We need to get rid of the Jews, or we need to punish the Jews, or we need to call them imposters, or whatever. You see this rise in propaganda is directly proportional to the rise of anti-Semitism in the world. So I just want to talk for just a minute about what propaganda is. Some time ago, I wrote this brochure on propaganda, just talking about propaganda. Here you go. This is just a three-fold thing, is just the inside and the outside. But I listed in this flyer 15 specific points that define propaganda as being propaganda. This is easy for people to get their hands on or the head around, because it gives you specific things you can look for when propaganda hits you like between the eyes. You don't have to fall for it in the first place, and you can dissect it, and it just will fall to the ground once you see it. Let me just read you a couple of things from here. Fear is basically this is the first thing for sure. Fear is a big element of propaganda. Then we have, for instance, the bandwagon. I like this one. The bandwagon says a claim is made that because everybody else is doing it, so you should do it too. Sounds familiar? How about this one? Plain folks. The propagandist implies that he is just an ordinary person like you with the same dreams and desires, therefore you should believe him. Of course, that will be not necessarily declaring what he believes. How about this one? Glittering generalities, sweeping statements that cannot be defined, often containing vague virtue words. How about this? How about false analogy? Two concepts are falsely linked together without any cause and effect. For instance, people who question vaccines are anti-vaxxers. Many others, Mary does not want to be vaccinated, so she is an anti-vaxxer. You see, all of these elements, if you have a checklist, you look at all these things, and when you're looking at an article, a news story, whatever, it becomes plainly evident what's going on. If you're getting hit with propaganda, you're going to be, if you don't recognize it, you'll be a sucker for it every time. So when we see the heat being applied with propaganda, that's the stimulus here. When you see the heat being applied to the popcorn, more kernels are going to explode. And before you know it, you're going to have a pot full of popcorn, and you're not going to like the taste of this kind of popcorn because it's all anti-Semitic. We need to guard on this, Christian friends, because you can be subject to propaganda as well as anybody else in the world. The only way that we can be alert to it is, well, just to be alert to it. We are told in the scripture that we should always be vigilant to test the spirits, to test everything that comes into our mind. This is one way to do it. If you don't take the guard on your mind, if you're not the only one wants to get in your mind, you are the only one who can keep anybody out who does not belong there. This is one way that we can keep ourselves pure in this crazy, crazy world. But do not buy into this business of anti-Semitism on any front. It's God's business. Whatever's going on over there is God's business, not ours. And we need to just make sure that we don't put our finger in God's eye vis-a-vis Israel. Thank you for your attention. Hope this has been instructive for you.